The room was cold. Machines beeped softly in the background. Billionaire Jonathan lay motionless on the hospital bed, tubes connected to his body, oxygen mask over his face, barely clinging to life. Doctors whispered outside the door, their voices low, their expressions grim. Then, out of nowhere, a soft voice filled the air. It wasn't the voice of a nurse or doctor. It was a child, a 10-year-old girl, barefoot, dressed in a worn-out ash-colored gown stained with mud, stood beside the billionaire's bed. Her hair, thick and natural, tumbled wildly around her small face. She looked like someone who hadn't eaten a full meal in days, but her voice was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. She sang with her eyes closed, softly. It wasn't a fancy song, no choir or instruments behind her, just her voice, rising like a gentle wind, trembling through the room like a prayer whispered straight from heaven. Jonathan's finger twitched, then his hand moved. A gasp burst from one of the nurses watching by the door. The doctor who had given up hope took a step closer. Then the billionaire coughed. Eyes slowly opened. The man who hadn't responded to treatment for weeks was alive, and he was staring right at her. 3 days earlier, 10-year-old Olivia was running through the dirty alleys of Oshodi market, her tiny feet dodging puddles and plastic bags as she balanced a sack of tomatoes on her head. Sweat covered her face under the blazing Lagos sun, but she didn't complain. She was used to it. She had to be, because 2 years ago, everything had changed. Her parents were gone, dead in a car crash that everyone said should have taken her life too, but it didn't. She was the only one who came out of that wreckage without a single scratch. Instead of seeing her as a miracle, her relatives saw her as something else. A witch, Aunt Monica had said at the funeral, folding her arms and turning away from the child. She killed her parents. Did you see how crushed the car was? And she didn't even bleed. That day, Olivia's last connection to love, to family, to safety was shattered. No one wanted her. No one helped her. They left her with nothing. Olivia dropped out of school. She began living on the streets, carrying heavy loads for people in the market for a few naira, just enough to buy a plate of rice and sachet water. But Olivia had one thing, her voice. Every night, when the world slept, Olivia sang under the bridge where she slept with other homeless children. She sang to forget her pain, to feel close to her parents, to drown out the harsh whispers that haunted her dreams. And sometimes, when she sang, strangers walking by would stop and weep. One woman once said, "Your voice touched something deep inside me," and Olivia held on to that. She had a dream once, where she sang to a man who was dying. In the dream, her voice brought him back to life. He smiled, placed his hand on her head, and said, "You are more powerful than you think." She never forgot that dream, and maybe that's why she wandered into August Modern Hospital that Wednesday morning. She hadn't eaten since the night before. She was hoping someone kind might give her a little money at the gate, maybe enough to buy bread. But just as she approached the reception area, she heard a woman whispering to a man in scrubs. "They said he won't make it through today," the woman said sadly. "It's like he gave up already." "Depression can kill faster than illness," the man replied. "After losing his wife and daughter, he just stopped fighting." "Who is it?" Olivia asked quietly, stepping forward. The woman turned. She blinked at the girl. "What are you doing here?" "I came to beg, Ma," Olivia said. "But I heard what you said about the man." The man raised a brow. "What about him?" "I can help him," Olivia said simply. They both stared at her. The man chuckled, turning back to his chart. "How?" the woman asked curiously. "I will sing for him," Olivia said. "If it's depression, my song can reach his soul." The man burst into laughter. "This one? With her torn gown and dirty feet?" But the woman didn't laugh. She looked at the girl again, noticing the calm confidence in her eyes. She wasn't joking. "It won't hurt to try," the woman said slowly. "Madam," the man warned. "It won't cost us anything," she said. "And maybe, just maybe." And that's how Olivia found herself being led down the long corridor of the hospital, past shiny white tiles and glass walls. Nurses whispered. People stared. Who is this beggar girl? What is she doing here? They entered the special ward where Jonathan Nduka, Nigeria's most mysterious and withdrawn billionaire, was lying unconscious. He had been in this room for 2 weeks. He didn't want visitors. He refused food. He didn't speak. Since his wife and daughter died in a fiery crash 2 years ago, the man had been hollowed out from the inside. Money couldn't save him. Doctors couldn't reach him. He had told his lawyers to prepare his will. He was ready to die. And now, this orphan girl stood beside him. Her tiny hand gently touched the metal bar on the hospital bed. Then she closed her eyes and began to sing. And what happened next changed everything. The song started low, like the hum of the early morning breeze. Olivia's eyes were closed, lips barely moving, but every note felt like it had been dipped in sunlight. The silence in the room shifted. What once felt heavy with death now felt strangely warm. The female doctor by the door froze. The male nurse who had mocked Olivia earlier found himself walking closer without meaning to. And then Jonathan's fingers twitched. "Did you see that?" the doctor whispered. "No, maybe it's just muscle spasms," the nurse replied, though his voice shook. But it wasn't. Olivia kept singing. Her voice rose gently, words like whispers of hope. "Even if the sun forgets to rise, there's a fire still burning in your soul. Don't go where we can't follow. Come back, come home." Then, with a sudden gasp, Jonathan coughed. Everyone jumped. His eyelids fluttered. His head turned slightly. One finger lifted, slowly curling in like a fragile promise. "Mr. Jonathan?" The doctor rushed to his side, stethoscope already pressed to his chest. His heart rate just improved. Pulse is strengthening. "My God!" The nurse rushed out to call more staff, but Olivia didn't move. She kept singing, voice calm and full of something no one could understand, but they could feel it. Love, peace, hope. By the time the third verse slipped from her lips, Jonathan's eyes slowly opened. He blinked against the white lights above him. For a moment, he looked like a man waking up from the longest sleep of his life. Then his gaze found Herth's barefoot child with muddy feet and eyes full of light. He didn't speak. He just stared. Tears gathered in the corners of his eyes, and Olivia, still singing, offered a smile. It was the first time someone had smiled at him without pity in 2 years. By the next morning, news had spread like wildfire across the hospital. "The billionaire has woken up. They say a homeless girl healed him with her voice. A miracle child." Doctors and nurses were stunned. Journalists began hovering around the hospital gates, sniffing for a story. But no one knew the full truth. Only a few saw what really happened in that quiet hospital room. And Olivia, she was given a room with a real bed for the first time in years. The hospital director ordered 3 square meals a day for her. They even gave her a clean gown to wear. But Olivia didn't ask for much. She only asked one thing: "Can I sing for him again?" Over the next 2 days, Olivia visited Jonathan every morning and evening. She didn't talk much. She just held his hand and sang. Sometimes, he drifted off peacefully. Other times, he would open his eyes and simply stare at her, like her voice reminded him of something lost, something worth holding on to. On the 3rd morning, Jonathan spoke. It was quiet, rough, but it was speech. He said, "I don't know who you are, but your voice, it found me." Olivia's eyes widened. "You're awake." Jonathan gave a weak smile. "I'm not dead, am I?" She shook her head. "You didn't let me die." "No, sir," she whispered. "Because I still need you. Someone in this world still needs you." Jonathan closed his eyes, and tears fell. For the first time in years, he wanted to live. Meanwhile, across the city, Olivia's name had begun to stir in hushed conversations. In Oshodi market, people whispered, "That little girl who used to carry yams for Madame Cafayat? She's the one they say healed the billionaire." Some laughed. Others believed it, but none of her so-called relatives knew yet. Back at the hospital, a meeting was held behind closed doors. The hospital director, the female doctor, and Mr. Jonathan's private lawyer all gathered. "She has no family, no school. She's been living under the bridge," the doctor said. Jonathan, now sitting up on his hospital bed, stared out the window. And yet, she gave me more life than any medicine could. The lawyer leaned forward. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Jonathan nodded. She saved me. Now, it's my turn to save her. But just as the room filled with hope, someone knocked on Olivia's hospital room door. It was a woman in a colorful wrapper with too much makeup and bitterness in her eyes. Where's that girl? She asked the nurse rudely. Olivia. Her name is Olivia. I'm her auntie. The nurse blinked. And you are? I'm her blood, her only family. I want to see her now. But Olivia, from behind the curtain, had already heard that voice. She froze. Her hands trembled. Aunt Monica had found her, the same woman who called her a witch, the same woman who left her at a graveside and never looked back. And now, she was back. Olivia's heart pounded. She couldn't breathe. That voice sharp, proud, and full of venom tore through the hallway like a storm. Aunt Monica was here, the same woman who pointed at her parents' funeral, eyes burning with hate, and spat the words that haunted her to this day. You're a witch. A child like you doesn't survive a crash like that unless there's something dark in her. Olivia had never forgotten it. And now, that same woman was standing outside her hospital room, pretending to care. She's my niece, Monica shouted at the nurse. Let me see her, I beg. I've been looking for her for years. The nurse wasn't buying it. She's resting. She just helped a patient recover. We don't allow visitors without clearance. Clearance, Monica hissed. I am her blood. Behind the thin curtain, Olivia gripped the hospital bed sheet. Her legs felt weak. She had faced hunger, rainstorms, cruel strangers, but this was the one person who truly broke her. Suddenly, the door opened wider. A tall man in an expensive black kaftan walked in. His presence was quiet but commanding. It was Mr. Jonathan. No longer weak or silent, he stood tall, his eyes alert. The machines had been removed from his body. His health had returned almost like magic. Excuse me, he said politely to Monica. You say you're this girl's relative? Monica turned to him, recognizing the man immediately. Her eyes widened. Ah, Chief Jonathan! God has saved you! Glory to God! He didn't smile. Who are you again? I'm Olivia's auntie, she said quickly, changing her tone. Her only family. I've been so worried. I heard the news and rushed down. Jonathan looked at her carefully. Where have you been for the last 2 years? Monica blinked. 2 didn't know where she was. He cut her off. Funny. The girl who saved my life told me her family left her to suffer, that they called her names, that they dropped her like trash. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Monica's smile faltered. Ah, sir, you know children can say anything. Behind the curtain, Olivia stepped forward. Her voice was soft, but it cut the room like a blade. She's lying. Monica turned sharply. Her eyes met Olivia's for the first time in 2 years. The girl had changed. She wasn't just a dirty market child anymore. She stood with quiet strength, wearing clean clothes, her hair combed back, eyes fierce but calm. You called me a witch, Olivia said. You said I killed my parents. You left me to die. Monica tried to recover. Olivia, I was in pain. We all were. I didn't mean it. You meant every word. The silence was heavy. Then Jonathan spoke again. Leave this hospital. Sir. Now. The guards by the door didn't wait for Monica to argue. They guided her out gently but firmly. Her voice echoed down the hall. You'll regret this, Olivia. Blood is blood. He will use you and dump you. But Olivia didn't flinch. She stood straight, and when Jonathan placed a hand on her shoulder, she didn't pull away. You're safe now, he said quietly. That night, Jonathan invited Olivia to his private lounge at the hospital, a place filled with books and calm music. She sat on a soft chair, legs folded underneath her, sipping warm milk. Olivia, he said, watching her closely. Tell me something. Why did you sing for me? She thought for a moment. Because I saw myself in you. I know how it feels to want to give up. His throat tightened. She continued, but I had a dream. I saw a man dying. I sang for him. He came back to life. I knew it was real. Jonathan nodded slowly. It was. You healed something deeper than my body. You healed my spirit. They sat in silence for a while. Then he smiled gently. What would you do if you could be anything in the world? Her eyes lit up for the first time. I want to fly, she said. Not just sing. I want to be a pilot. I want to see the skies my parents never got to see. Jonathan looked at her like she was the most beautiful answer to every prayer he had never dared to pray. Then I'll make it happen. The next morning, the paperwork was signed. Jonathan officially adopted Olivia. He gave a press statement, shocking the nation. The girl who saved me is now my daughter. I owe her my life. And now, she will have hers back. Nigerians online went wild. Miracle child. Olivia, the angel. From beggar to blessed. But as Olivia moved into the mansion, enrolled in the best school, and began learning to fly, not everyone was happy. From the shadows, Uncle Benedict, Jonathan's estranged cousin, watched the news with narrowed eyes. So, the old man brought a beggar into his will? He muttered. His assistant said nothing. Let's see how long this miracle girl lasts, Benedict said coldly. I've waited too long to lose everything to a street child. He picked up his phone, and somewhere in Lagos, a dark plan began to form. For the first time in her life, Olivia had a door she could lock, a bed that smelled of lavender, a room with stars that glowed on the ceiling. Each night, she stared at them before sleeping, reminding herself it wasn't a dream. Every morning, she woke up in the Banana Island mansion, bathed in sunlight, wrapped in soft blankets. She wasn't dodging rainwater under the bridge anymore. She wasn't carrying crates in the market. She wasn't begging for leftover rice. She was Olivia Nduka, adopted daughter of billionaire CEO Jonathan Nduka. More than that, she was a student pilot, already flying simulators with adult-level precision. Her voice, still soft and soul-deep, now reached thousands. Jonathan helped her set up a small digital platform called Sing to Heal, where people going through depression could listen, cry, and find comfort. She had hope. She had purpose. She had family. But just when the skies seemed brightest, the darkness came knocking again. It started subtly. One evening, while Olivia was reading in her room, one of the maids brought her a plate of jollof rice. She was about to take the first spoon when something didn't feel right. The smell, too sharp. Her stomach turned. She gently placed the spoon down and called the chef, Mr. Ibrahim, who ran up in panic. He took one whiff and immediately frowned. Madam Olivia, he said, you know fit chop this rice. Something dey wrong. The rice was rushed to the family doctor. Traces of rat poison were found. Everyone was stunned. Jonathan was furious. He called an emergency meeting with the entire staff. Whoever touched this plate before it got to her speak now. But no one did. The cameras in the kitchen? Disabled. The maid, who served the food? Gone. She had resigned that same night and vanished. Olivia's hands shook the next day. She stayed indoors. For the first time since being adopted, she didn't sing. Meanwhile, in a small, dusty compound in Ikeja, Uncle Benedict leaned back in his chair, sipping palm wine. His phone buzzed. He smiled. Tell me, he said, did it reach her? A voice on the line replied, no. She didn't eat it. Something went wrong. Benedict slammed the glass down. Then make sure the next one works. That girl is standing in the way of everything I built for. That fortune belongs to me. For years, Benedict had waited for Jonathan to break-toe die. He'd watched his cousin waste away after losing his wife and daughter. He was next in line. He had prepared for it. But then this child came from nowhere. A street girl. A nobody. Now living in the mansion? Carrying Jonathan's name? Wearing his daughter's clothes? Being trained to take over his foundation? No. Benedict would not allow it. Days later, Olivia began to notice strange things. Her flight simulator login was suddenly disabled for suspicious access attempts. Her favorite teddy bear, one her father gave her, was found torn in half. Her childhood photos, those few precious ones, she still kept hidden in a drawer soaked in water. It was too much to be coincidence. Jonathan noticed the changes in her. She was quieter, less playful. She stopped humming in the corridors. He sat beside her on her bed one night. "Olivia," he said softly, "what's going on?" She looked at him with tired eyes. "I think someone's trying to hurt me." He nodded slowly. "I know." Her breath caught. "You do?" "I've received 2 anonymous threats in the past week. First, they warned me to take you back to the street. Then they said next time, it won't just be rice." "Who's doing this?" Jonathan clenched his jaw. "I have a guess. And if I'm right, he's not done." Just when things couldn't get more tense, a major twist shook the entire house. Jonathan collapsed during a board meeting. He was rushed to the hospital. The media went wild. Billionaire CEO rushed to ICU again. Nuka's health crisis. Is this the end? Olivia didn't leave his side for a second. She sang. She prayed. She held his hand like she did the first time. But this time, he wasn't waking up. And worse, in the middle of that chaos, Benedict made his move. At the mansion, a group of lawyers arrived unannounced. They claimed there was a revised will Jonathan had signed weeks ago. In it, the entire fortune was to be transferred to a new trustee, Benedict, until Olivia turned 21. All business decisions would go through him. All assets, all shares. The staff protested. The family doctor called bluff. But the documents looked real. Suddenly, Olivia was no longer the young heiress. She was a powerless girl in the mansion, living under the rule of a man who hated her. That night, Benedict arrived with suitcases. "Your daddy's weak again," he said, smiling coldly. "And until he's gone, everything here belongs to me." Olivia stood in the hallway, watching the monster walk into her home. Her safe place was no longer safe. And this time, singing may not be enough. The air inside the mansion had changed. It was no longer warm and welcoming. Now it felt tight, cold, like the breath of someone waiting to pounce. Uncle Benedict walked through the halls like a king, returning to his stolen throne. He ordered the staff around, rearranged rooms, and even had the family portrait where Olivia stood smiling between Jonathan and his late wife's painting taken down. "This house needs cleansing," he said mockingly. "Too much. Fake energy." Olivia said nothing. She had learned silence was sometimes stronger than tears. But deep down, something inside her began to rise. It wasn't fear. It was fire. Jonathan remained unconscious in the hospital. The doctors did their best, but the stress had worsened his condition. His blood pressure was unstable, his breathing shallow. Olivia visited every day. She held his hand, just like before. But this time, she didn't sing. Something in her heart was broken. "What if it doesn't work this time?" she whispered to him, voice trembling. "What if I lose you too?" She felt like that 10-year-old girl again, standing at her parents' funeral, with nobody beside her. That night, when she returned to the mansion, her old street instincts kicked in. She couldn't sleep. She walked quietly past the guest wing, Benedict's wing, and saw light under his door. Voices. She crept closer. "When he dies, everything is mine," Benedict was saying on the phone. "The new will is already signed and in place. The girl? I'll send her back to wherever I found her." Pause. "I don't care what it takes. Jonathan must not wake up." Olivia's stomach dropped. It was never about her. It was always about the money. The fake will. The threats. The poisoning. It all made sense now. She ran. Not to hide, but to fight. The next morning, the mansion was filled with noise. Olivia stepped into the grand hallway in a clean, white gown. Her hair was neatly packed, her eyes fierce with purpose. She held something in her hand, a small recording device. Behind her stood the family lawyer, Mr. Okoye, and a police officer. "Uncle Benedict," she said calmly. "You're finished." He turned from the dining table, confused. "What nonsense are you talking?" Then she pressed the play button. Benedict's voice filled the room. "When he dies, everything is mine. I don't care what it takes. Jonathan must not wake up." Everyone froze. The lawyer's mouth dropped open. "So the new will is a fraud?" The police officer stepped forward. "Sir, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted poisoning, and forgery. "No, no, this is a setup," Benedict yelled, but it was too late. He was handcuffed and dragged out of the house, screaming. As the doors shut behind him, Olivia exhaled deeply. The chains were broken, but one more thing remained. That evening, Olivia returned to the hospital. She stepped into Jonathan's room quietly. Machines beeped steadily. The doctors said he had 48 hours left if there was no change. She pulled up a chair, took his hand, and for the first time in days, she began to sing. This time, her voice was different, stronger, clearer, like sunlight breaking through a thick storm. "You gave me a name when I had none. You gave me a home when I was cold. Now don't go where I can't follow. There's still laughter here, still skies to fly." And just like before, his fingers moved. Her voice didn't stop. She sang until his chest began to rise deeper, until his eyelids fluttered, until he opened his eyes and whispered, "Olivia?" Tears ran down her face. "You came back to me," he said weakly. "I never left," she whispered, holding him tight. Weeks later, the news was everywhere. Jonathan Nduka wakes from coma after daughter's song. Benedict Nduka faces 18 years in prison for forged will. The miracle girl becomes Nigeria's youngest pilot at 17. Olivia didn't just go back to school, she flew through it. Literally, she became a licensed pilot at 17. She opened the Sing to Heal Center, where trained singers help people battling depression through music. She met Dr. Johnson, a medical doctor who loved her heart more than her fame. They got married, had twin boys, Jerry and Joshua, and in that same Banana Island mansion where pain once lived, joy now danced in every corner. Jonathan never let her move out. "You're my daughter," he said, "and this is your home forever." If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.